morning. How are you guys? My name's Michelle Farrow, and this is going to be very informal since it's just us, and I'm going to be sitting, standing, walking around, helping you guys out, whatever. My name's Michelle Farrow, and I am your CPalms Regional Coordinator. All that means is that I work in 11 different districts. I work in, and I already forgot, I just said it, Volusia County all the way down to Palm Beach, and then like in the state a little bit. I taught in the classroom for 15 years. I taught some up in Ohio, up in Kent, and some down here in Brevard. And my last placement actually was science lab, a science lab teacher K through 6 in Brevard. And I have worked part-time for CPalms for a couple of years, and I just saw the value of it. I decided to leave the safety net of my classroom 2 school years ago, so this is my second year out of the classroom, and go ahead and work for CPalms because it's so fabulous. Do you guys have any experience with CPalms? No? Okay. Going on, looking at it?
Well, a lot of our education classes require us to use the Common Core standards, so we
Okay.
go to look at the standards.
Okay, great. So, CPalms, if you're not aware, and it's at the bottom of my slide here, it stands for Collaborate, Plan, Align, Learn, Motivate, and Share. And that is the essence of what we're all about. We were created by Florida teachers for Florida teachers, so we're very proud of that. We are located out of the FCR STEM office, which is the Florida Center for Research, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics at Florida State University. We are grant funded, that's how I can be here today, free to you, through Florida Department of Ed's Race to the Top, National Science Foundation, and then we have various other grants. These are our 2 main sponsors. So we started out as a site to support math and science teachers, obviously coming out of the FCR STEM office. However, we, because of some grants like the Florida Department of Ed's Race to the Top, we've delved into other content areas like English language arts and social studies, and now we are the official place of our standards for the state of Florida and our course descriptions. So I'll go ahead and talk to you about that in a moment. I just want to tell you a little bit about our goals today. So by the end of the session, you'll be able to navigate our site. You'll be able to become more familiar with our CPalms tools, which I don't know if you've ever even done that yet, if you have to be signed in. And then you'll be able to plan for your instruction like never before, which I know sounds a little cheesy, but it really is. And for you guys, you can go on and get such great ideas. That was not at my fingertips when I was in college. We just got internet when I was in college, believe it or not. I know, isn't that hard to believe? So you guys are very fortunate. So like I mentioned earlier, we are the official house of the Florida Standards and our course descriptions, and we have many, many types of resources. These are just a few of the types that we have. And all of our resources go through a rigorous review process. So we don't just slap those resources up online, they do go through a process, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So a lot of people ask me, Michelle, why do people use CPalms? Well, because we are standards aligned. We have a rigorous multi-tier review process, and we do look at those 4 main points as well as others. And that's actually our review form, which I know you can't see, but that's a snapshot of our review form. And importantly as well, all of our contributions are from teachers. So in the state of Florida, you have to be a Florida educator in order to submit to our site. So that's why I say we truly are by Florida teachers for Florida teachers. 90% of our content is original content, meaning a teacher started with a standard and then did a backwards design around that standard to create a resource, whether the resource was a lesson plan, a teaching idea, whatever we have. And then they went through our review process, which I'll show you on my next slide, and then it got published. 10% of our content is from pre-existing sites, so sites that might not necessarily be from Florida and they're not originally created by the teacher who submitted. So for example, some sites, you might want to take these down, like Illuminations. That's a fabulous website by the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. fabulous resources there. And I think it's like illuminations.nctm.org, but I'm not 100% sure on that. If you Google Illuminations, it'll pop up. Readworks.org. Have you guys seen that one yet? So that's a great one for English language arts resources. How high up are you guys going? Just 5th, 6th? Okay.
6 is what the license
Six,
shows.
okay. So there is another one called PHET, P-H-E-T, and it has math and science simulations, but that's really for 6 and up. You might be able to utilize it though. There's some great things to just help you out with some content. So those are just a few of the types of resources that I'm talking about that were pre-existing, not original content. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and explain how our resources go through our review process. So a contributor submits it, it goes through 2 peer teacher reviewers, and then it moves on to an expert reviewer. And it goes through if it were a science lesson, it would go to a science expert reviewer. If it were a math lesson, it would go to a math expert reviewer, and then it would go to a CPalms expert reviewer. What would happen is then we would look at all those resources. I'm one of the expert reviewers, and we would provide feedback to the contributor, and that feedback would be in the form of an email. They will revise it, resubmit it, and then send it back to the expert, bless you, back to the expert reviewer, who the process might happen over and over and over again. I mean, on average, it's like two to three times where we go through this cycle of getting them to revise and resubmit. We do not turn down any teacher's original work. So if you wanted to submit a resource to CPalms, go through our vetting process, and then you can be published on a peer review site, which is something you want to add to your curriculum vita. You can do that. We will not turn you down. We will provide professional development and give you suggestions on how to enhance that resource in order to then get published. And so then we have publication. So we have here all of our, or some of our types of resources that I showed you earlier. And again, this is just a few of the types. I'm going to go ahead and go live to the site, and I'm going to do some demonstrating, and then I'm going to have you guys go on and do some explore time. Is there anyone who has to leave before 11?
Class of 10.
You all do, 10, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well then I'm going to do this a little differently then. So you can try to follow along, but I'm going to move at a much faster pace so that you guys can just at least see some things that would be beneficial. So I apologize if I move too fast.
Fast girls, they will be
That's great. All right, so the very first thing is everyone on our site? Okay, so you can create an account quickly. Did you have a chance to do that? Yeah. Okay, if you haven't created an account, did you create an account?
I didn't, but I...
Go to not a member yet, and then you just fill in those cells, and it'll be real fast. It's like 6 cells. Do you have an account? Okay, so go ahead and create that account. If you don't mind, I'm going to still talk while you create an account. Okay, so here I know I'm signed in. It says, welcome Michelle Farrow at the top. So you should have your name appearing at the top of the screen once you've signed in. And the way our site works is that we have these tabs which are consistent across the top, no matter which tab you are on. And then we have the purple banner, which does change depending on your tab. Now, a hot link right now for teachers in the state of Florida, and when you guys graduate, is the FSA link, the Florida Standards Assessment link, which is the new assessment. Have you guys learned about that? The new assessment, instead of FCAT, it's now going to be the Florida Standards Assessment, with the exception of science. Science is still FCAT. All right, so if you want to go on and look at sample test questions and actually take a sample test, I did that in December. I took the grades 3-4 math one, and wow, my eyes were like, I was so shocked because it's so different than how I was taught to teach math and how I was taught math. So it's very different. Definitely want to check that out. All right, so the biggest thing is we encourage teachers to go to their grade level toolkit. So does it matter what grade? Okay, I'll just choose one. I'll try to bounce around. So I'm going into the grade 2 toolkit, and they're all set up the same. And the way they're set up is all of the subjects taught in the state of Florida at that grade level appear. So somewhere dance is taught. Actually, I was at a school in Orlando where they have dance instead of PE. And we have our subject areas here, English language arts, gifted even, math, music, all of them are listed here. As you scroll down, all the way down, you'll see X's. Those are our old standards. So you definitely don't want to do those, and I think they're going to be removed after this year. So right now, the current standards that Florida is using is what we call the Florida standards. Okay, so just to give you a little history about that, we aren't using Common Core anymore, although the Florida standards are extremely similar to the Common Core. As a matter of fact, in math and English language arts, there were no more than like 20-some standards K through 12 that are changed. So if you're looking at Common Core, you're basically looking at what we're using. But definitely look, because for example, there are quite a few standards in math. The most changes in elementary were second grade math. Some second grade math standards were taken away and moved down to first grade. Some kindergarten standards were removed. So you definitely want to look on CPalms to see the accurate standards. I'm just going to go on and show you some of the types of resources, just looking at different content areas. So I'm clicking on English language arts, and I have here, for second grade, they have 72 standards. And I'm just going to pick one that, this is something teachers use all the time, identify the main purpose of a text. Something very common. All right, so you can click on the standard code, which would take you to the standard page, give you all the information about that standard. It will give you the related access points, which are students who take alternate assessment. I don't know, you might never have students like that, but that would be there. We have all of our standards, math, English language arts, and science have content complexity ratings. And they're all based off of Norman L. Webb and his depth of knowledge. Have you ladies learned about Webb? Okay, so when I was in college, I learned about Bloom and his taxonomy. Well, our standards are, oh, and you have it up here, yes, oh, that's cute. They had nothing like that when I was, yeah, that's cute. I didn't even recognize, I didn't even see that. But no, our standards in Florida are based off of Bloom and his depth of knowledge. And we have information on our site about his depth of knowledge and what that means, and I'll show you how to access that. So you can access it by clicking on more information like I did here and clicking right here for more information, or when you're on a standard tab, you can click on the content complexity rating, and that tells me as a teacher what is the cognitive demand required of my students in order to master that standard. And so what level of rigor am I teaching that standard at? What level of rigor am I assessing that standard at? And there's a lot of great information there, so you definitely want to check that out. But I'm going to go ahead and show you, I'm a visual person, so I'm going to click on this. There are 14 resources that were vetted for this standard. And if I click on it, down below pops up or pops down a box, and I can see that there are 3 main types of resources for this standard, and in the little right-hand corner there, that little number is telling me how many there are. So for English language arts, I want to highlight one type of resource we have, and that's our student center activities. So the student center activities are actually from FCRR, the Florida Center for Reading Research, which is actually located out of Florida State University. And what we have is we have these centers. If you click on them, you go to our resource page and you would have to click on the site. Remember I said we have some external, this would be an example of an external resource where a teacher didn't create it, but the Florida State group did. And so here we have everything you would need for that student center is listed here, and including if there's cards or sheets that they need, which teachers like to print them and on cardstock, laminate them, and have them as a resource for for years to come to make them a little more durable. So that was I wanted to show you one type of resource we have for ELA. We have some student center activities for other content areas, but the bulk of them are for that. I'm going to go ahead and click on math, because in math, and let's just go fluently add and subtract within 100. I'll just do that. So I'm going to click on the bottom resource link here, and now I can see all the different types that for this one standard, but I want to highlight formative assessments. So Florida had a grant where they were able to pull teachers out of the classroom for a year and work with experts in the mathematics field and create formative assessments which they then field tested and piloted them throughout the state of Florida. They compiled all that data and then were able to create these formative assessments. So these are research-based assessments that you definitely want to utilize these when you're in the classroom. Now the way they're set up, you can, in some cases you might have to do all 4 of these in order to fully assess that standard, or in other cases there might be 2 that assess the same skill. So you just have to look at what their target is. And a reminder, formative assessment is a process. It's, you do it to see where your students are and to help guide your instruction, and it helps them know where they are at learning that skill as well. So you wouldn't be grading it per se, and you wouldn't be using it as a summative. So just to talk a little bit about how our resource pages are set up, I'd like to explain that. So we have the title of the resource, and then they all have an ID number, which is how some people identify resources on our site. They know the ID number and they'll send them to their friends. And then we have a primary type, formative assessment. And we know it's a formative because I chose formative assessment. All of our resources can be exported right here to a Word